back to Akuna Moscato. My name's Matt. You've just seen the footage of us making a roller. We're going to be using it to further crush the biochar after we've made that. If you're unfamiliar with the biochar plant, just look back a couple of videos and you'll see it. It's also going to help us repair the road that we pretty much destroyed during harvest with the tractor loading the truck. So that's the second purpose that the roller is going to serve. Anyway, tomorrow we start taking off nets. What I wanted to talk about is a little bit about post-harvest vine nutrient. The grapevines in Australia tend to hold on to their leaves for some weeks after harvest. In Tasmania, that's typically 2 to 3 weeks. This is the time when it's best to apply nutrient. So in our particular situation, we're going to put on some EZN, which is a nitrogen in liquid form that we run through the fertigation system. Post-harvest, because we're not feeding the grapes, it's going into the actual vine. The grapevine will store the nutrients in the perennial tissue of the vine to use next spring. It'll draw some of those nutrients from the root system, but mainly localised carbohydrates in the form of starch and sugars. The total amount of carbohydrate reserves in a grapevine is between half a kilo and 2.2 kilos. And a typical vine will store 50 to 75% of that in the root system. Normally in spring, less than half of that reserved carbohydrate is metabolized in spring. Localized carbohydrate storage is used to support initial shoot growth in the weeks following bud burst. And then the more distant stored carbohydrates are used as a vascular tissue in the new shoot starts to develop. And is able to extract the stored carbohydrates from further away in the vine. So initially it's the local carbohydrate storage that's used to develop the shoot growth, and as that vascular tissue starts to develop, it'll draw it from further down the vine. The transport of reserved carbohydrates reaches its maximum at between 8 to 10 leaves separated. By that stage, the leaves have developed enough to start producing, using carbohydrates to start producing photosynthesis, or using photosynthesis to start producing carbohydrates to put back into the vine, and it becomes self-sufficient from that point on. The vine also then has to develop enough carbohydrates to store for the winter, so it can develop shoots again for the following season. So it's important to meet those requirements. The vine is able to conduct the macronutrients the best, and it's hard to metabolize the micronutrients that the vine requires to grow. So nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, sulfur and magnesium. Calcium's a little bit harder for the vine to draw in, so those other macronutrients are the best ones to deliver to the plant because it's able to take them quickly and to store them quickly before the leaves drop off in that 2 to 3 week period. For Tasmanian vines, they may stay on a little bit longer in hotter regions, but because Tasmania is quite a cool climate, it'll take only 2 to 3 weeks for those leaves to drop off after harvest and for the vine to go into dormancy. So delivering those macronutrients, particularly nitrogen, is the best thing that you can do to aid the plant. Putting the micronutrients on will do you little to no good because the vine won't be able to draw them up and you'll only be feeding the weeds under the vine. So yeah, best to address those macronutrients. For us, we're going to just address nitrogen this season, and then we'll worry about the rest of the nutrients early spring towards bud burst. So we'll put on a nice load just before bud burst of a combination fertiliser. We'll go and spread some, say Rustica for example. It's a broad combination fertiliser that addresses all the micro and macronutrients. And have them there ready for the plant to take up. We will then go ahead and put on another nitrogen through the fertigation system. Again, it'll probably be EZN, something really high in nitrogen, and we'll also address some of the other lacking nutrients in foliar applications, say iron chelate for example, we'll put on in a foliar spray, Trace LK, all those sorts of things we can put into a foliar application, and we'll also do fertigations through the season as well and address calcium, so calcium nitrate through the fertigation system early in the season, and yeah, we'll keep addressing all those issues as they pop up, making sure that our vines have plenty of nutrition that they can use. Nutrition is a really crucial part of plant development, and it's key to producing a good crop. If you have a healthy vine, you'll produce a good wine. The old saying was in Tasmania that a struggling vine produces good wine. That's not necessarily the case. Sure, they have in the past, but it's better to improve your vine health, and you can develop a good wine, addressing those nutrients, making the plant able to make its own decisions. Basically just providing all its needs are covered, and all its nutrient needs are covered, and the plant is able to be self-sustainable and deliver nutrients where and as they are needed throughout the plant. Yeah, so post-harvest we're just going to put on a nitrogen because it's the easiest for the plant to take up, whereas some of the micronutrients aren't as easy for the plant to take up. Excellent. Well, I hope this video has been helpful. Can't wait to see you next episode, and yes, until then, stay cool.